ويا ذا القوة المتين ويا راحم المساكين ويا أرحم الراحمين ويا سلام سلمنا والمسلمين بجاه السيد المرسلين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا من سيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we'll continue with our Fiqh Halal bil Haram. Today is about a woman serving a male guest, where it has been mentioned in this book a woman may serve her husband guest. It's allowed, but in his presence, as long as she adheres to the Islamic standard in her dress. Those are the conditions. If you bring any guest into your house, this is what your wife has to look into. She must be wearing or she must be adhering to the Islamic standard in her dress, in her movement and her speech. Then only you can allow her to be present to attend to your guests. If she cannot be behaving in those three things, then you can lock her in the room. Okay? They will naturally see her and she will see them. There is nothing haram in this as long as there is no danger of involvement on either side. That is the base Islam, as long as they don't have any ill feelings. But there is a very thin line, isn't it? It's really very hard to, for you to know. How are you going to know that someone is eyeing onto your wife? Right? So do you want to take the risk? It's up to you. Otherwise, then you should follow what is being mentioned here. So this is mentioned in Al-Bukhari, Muslim, and others narrated that Sahal ibn Sa'd al-Ansari said Abu Usaid as-Sa'idi invited the Prophet ﷺ and his companion to his wedding. The food was prepared and served by none other than his wife, Usaid. She had soaked some date in milk in a stone pot overnight. When the Prophet ﷺ had finished his meal, she mashed the dates and brought the drink to him. Then Shaykh al-Islam Ali ibn Hajjar commented, from this hadith we conclude, Ibn Hajjar said, we conclude that a woman is permitted to serve her husband and his male visitors, just as the husband is permitted to serve his wife. So it is evident that her serving the visitors is allowed only if there is no fear of temptation. That is the condition. And if she is properly dressed, of course if she come out with 90s, how can you allow that? So if the wife is not properly dressed, as in the case of the majority of women in our time, so her appearing in front of a man is very clear.
So what if the other way around, the husband serve the wife or serve female guests?
Same also. They have to be dress up. I mean, as for male, as we know, whatever is between the navel and the knees.
That's for us to be dressed up. But I say if the guest is not
female,
the guest is female but not dressed properly, how is that? Okay, let's say Muslim but not dressed properly according to Islamic standard. So
Unfortunately, of course, you cannot shoo them away from your house. They are still your guests. When the beauty of Islam, Islam does not do confrontation dawah. Confrontational dawah is something that is forbidden. I think we went through that at one time. Huh? No, about even for Eid Mubarak, when you go visiting during Eid Mubarak, and then this is what happened, and then you saw again people not behaving according to according to Islam, then you are not allowed to do the confrontational dawah, meaning that you are not allowed to correct that person
Confrontation.
in a confrontational form. If you can find a way to bring him to the corner and talk to him, you can do so, but if you cannot, then you should not.
So, but let's say in Singapore context, where again we are not an Islamic country per se, we are not the majority also, and even within the Muslim community, there are people who they are working in progress, trying to wear hijab or whatever not. So, given that kind of social environment, uh, does that play a part also? So in a way, it's like the norms that perhaps some may not wear the hijab, and therefore because of that, the rule is a little bit less, or is it still based on?
Okay, in the context of our time, the issue is like, what is the norm? What is the norm in the society? Meaning, like, when you look at this Cikgu Shikin example, does it arouse you? Or does she move like in the way that it arouses you? Or does she talk in a way like, you know, using all those sexy voices and this and that? So these are you need to see, like, whether if that is the kind of behavior that you're going to get from an opposite sex, then you should be strong yourself. You should shield yourself to avoid being seduced by this other woman.
So it may depend on the person. For example, like in Singapore, you may have a situation where it's 50-50, hijab, non-hijab, for example. So it's a little bit more lax, I suppose, that if you have a non-hijab Muslimah who comes, but you feel that you are not aroused, or she herself does not seem to be doing something to arouse you, then perhaps treating the guest may be okay. But if there comes a situation where it does arouse, then that's why you have, I mean, in a way,
Then you should not accept her as your guest.
or let's say my wife, I just ask my wife to entertain, for example.
Yes. I mean, if your wife is around,
So
this is the beauty of the religion, because you need to see if the person is very disturbing. In other words, you have to play your own role. You have to play your part too by trying to avoid.
but this is in Singapore context.
That's why in Saudi Arabia the culture is different. Totally, you will not be able to see any of the women. No way.
Because down there shouldn't be any reason why
Exactly.
they should.
They have been. I mean, they are kind of familiar. Islam is always like what our government is practicing. An example will be like before before the law has been applied, right? They will debate in parliament. They need the parliament to pass it. Then only there will be an implementation. And when they implement it, normally the first offender will be like, they will wait, right? So that is basically how Islam is actually. So this is taken from a very authentic hadith of the Prophet ﷺ during the incident of where, if you can still remember, the Bedouin that came down, from the mountain and go to the other corner and just do his business, and you can see the reactions of the companion. They wanted to actually beheaded that Bedouin, and the saddest part, I mean, what you can see very clearly from the hadith, that even Prophet Muhammad ﷺ allowed him to really ease himself in totality, meaning like really finish whatever business that he is doing. So there you can see that there is no confrontation. So you have to be diplomatic in your approach. This is where psychological is also needed for us to understand, because I mean, in our time again, we know if the person that comes in here don't tell me that they do not know the basic rules. You see, like what happened today, or don't know where some of these Europeans were wearing the Malaysian, it's Malaysia, I think. European wearing they are wearing the underwear which is represent the Malaysian flag. An example. So that is something that no excuse. That's why they can be charged in the court of law. So cannot be like visitors that come into your house wearing like that, is it? So if they wear, I mean, even if it is a Muslim, they come in short pants. You should not be receiving that if your wife is not around. If your wife is around, then you shouldn't be the one receiving the guest, because it's talking not only just fitna, but it's talking about it will later disturb your mind. You know, we didn't really want to go into details into what the 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 lensa of our eyes actually is very fast. They go in collecting, whatever that we saw, and then it's stored in our mind. So this is what Islam fears. So the moment if you are confronted with that kind of dress code, right, it goes into your mind, and it's worse still that if your wife is not around, then it will kind of like bug you in your mind to say, hey, this is the opportunity, and this and that lah. Why not you try and these women may also seduce you, and then you find it very difficult to resist. So Islam is just safeguarding in that aspect. You disregard that true enough, you can see what is happening in every society, not only in our society. Scandal.
So I guess in a way you have to look. I mean, we cannot give a clear-cut answer because there are different factors in the in the example. But generally, the idea is based on the simple principle. If we are to treat the opposite guest, I guess we shouldn't be alone. We should be with spouse or with at least with somebody like in that sense. Now whether that person is dressed up appropriately or behaving appropriately, that is something in a way we can say it depends on how strong we are. If you find that we cannot tahan, for example, then we better do something to get out of the situation. Or if we think we can, then you do your best to calm down the situation, I suppose, in a sense.
If you have understood the mannerism in Islam, Islam has made it very clear that it begins when the child was young. We need to train if you have a children, right, between 7 and 10 years old, it's already you need to train them. So this is avoiding of what is happening today, having sex with the minor. You see, Islam has already started that. But then if you disregard, you bear the consequences. Simple as that. But of course, even in Islamic State, it may not happen, but it may also happen. But it's just that the number will not be that, bigger in comparison to those countries who totally ignore what is being practiced in the religion. So Islam have already taught us, before when the child is 10 years old, it should be separated from the parents' bedroom. Cannot be together. And you have to train them. They bring up from the toilet to put on not bathrobe, but in our society will be just putting on the towel to cover the child. Don't allow the child to run outside, to naked, and like then you saw it like very happy. You kind of like cheer the child, and so you see these are all the negative signal that we're giving to the child. So the progress of the child at the later, they think that it's something fun. It happened, I attended one of these cases when I was still active in Daru. Father is a European, and having a daughter 17 years old, and European and American lifestyle, going in and out of the bathroom naked is the norm in their society. So
for that family,
exactly. Unfortunately, it happens that they have a daughter 17 years old, so she feel a bit saddened by whatever is happening, and then it becomes an issue brought up to Daru attention, and we call the parents for counseling. So this is, I don't know whether it's happening in our society, because now you can even see that most of our youth are wearing shorts at home. And mother doesn't say anything, or just because the weather is hot and this and that. Okay, fine, there's nothing. So you need to be careful on these things.
Just now I just saw Malay Muslim, right? I just see Malay. Anak tiga tau. Mak dia pakai short. So I was just
So it's all about setting an example, starting from young. Which, if you don't do that, it may lead to like what is being discussed about that sense of shyness, to be with the opposite sex, so on and so forth, dressing and whatever not. So, but regarding this particular book by Imam Yusuf Qaradawi, what he's saying now, it has not considered the social environment yet, right? But can we say that just because of the social environment, the norm is like that, therefore we can loosen the rules a bit, or when does it become?
We can't use, we can't what do you call it? We can't make that kind of changes. But if we are dealing with the non-Muslim, yes, we can't be doing that to the Muslim.
I see, we can follow this strictly when we are dealing with Muslims.
Yes.
But non-Muslim, then definitely they are not obligated to follow.
Exactly.
So,
But unless, as I said again just now, if they are in front of your house already wearing short, you can't turn them away.
even for Muslim,
Yes, you can't. It's not allowed in the religion. So what you can do, you just remain silent and move. Let them bell 3 times. If they know the adab, after 3 bell, no answer, salam alaikum, go back. But if they knock and bang at your door, if you can stand, just ignore them. Because they are not in a proper dress code. It's a kind of difficult. You can start that during the festive season. I mean, like Hari Raya they come, then you should not be receiving them. I mean, get the message across to them, but not in confrontational way. As I said, that not on that very day when they come wearing sexy, and you shoot them away. That is not right. So the only way you should stop and lock the door, and then later call them and say, "Do you know why I didn't open up the door?" Ask yourself. This is how Islam. I mean, if you want to get the message across, rather than you already invited him, then you give the long lecture. This is not right.
because in our society, I think very practical. Basically, we have people who, as what is mentioned there, behave properly, dress properly. Some are learning; they are on the way. Some, even whether they bothered or not bothered to learn or try to improve, that's their pasal lah. But in terms of whether they are dressed or not, it is common. So if you are to use that approach, then macam like you'll be closing your door to a lot of people in that sense lah. So that's why I was asking about what is the norm in the society. If we have a case where it's 50-50, can we then loosen this ruling a little bit to say we invite them in, but we do our best to try to avoid circumstances and stuff?
I mean, if that approach can be done, yes. Yes, if you want to lose in that aspect, it's allowed.
If you want to,
loosen it, but in that aspect where you load them in and then you start giving them lessons, that is allowed. But what the few of the scholars, you can see very clearly, he mentioned there, if you're not properly dressed, you're not. I mean, the person that is coming, like very sexy, wants to be tapping on your shoulder, tapping on your one. And this one, you cannot allow this to happen. Because once you allow, then there will be the second. There will be the third, there will be the fourth, and finally you go down to the dream. Because Satan is not stupid. Satan is also doing his work in procrastinating. So in many Sufis, they fall because of this. They become prey to the victims of women. And that's why this is during the time of, if you read Ibrahim Adham, all those great saints. Many of these Habib, they failed the test. So this is why, although this is coming from the legal perspective, that's why, as I said, that in Islam you have to follow the system, the sequence. Like your Sharia must be very strong. Sharia, then Hakikat, then Tariqat. You cannot jump, because this is what happened, and you will be cheated. Even people like great saint like Syekh Abdul Qadir Jalani also being deceived by Satan, coming in this guy to say that, okay, you have prayed enough, now from now on you can relax. Imagine if it is we definitely will be waiting for that kind of voices for us to go into, because we thought that we had done enough. So the problem is normally there is very thin line here. The scholars won't dare to open up and then say that this is an exceptional cases. No. As you can see, even Yusuf Qaradawi is the most liberal among all so-called modern scholars.
So we can say that this is the best. If you can follow, you follow. If you yourself, you are still a work in progress, you want to give excuses using society, using norms, then I guess it's your intention in that sense.
But I mean, if you are, because you see, this is the reason why, as I was telling him also just now on our way here, you have to start, you have to start somewhere. You really cannot just be, what do you call it, doing full force. It will not work. Allah Ta'ala knows human being, Allah Ta'ala, that's why the command is only sabili bil hikmah. So the word is being used. You have to be diplomatic, tactful, you need to do some psychological work also for you to understand. And then there's another hadith that followed by that Quranic verse where the Prophet ﷺ already mentioned very clearly again. And this is very useful, especially for teachers. When the Prophet mentioned Kalimul Nas, because they put him, when you are speaking to someone, measure the brain of the person that you are talking. If he's a nonsensical person, how can you be talking sensible thinking? He cannot accept what you say. If he's a joker, how can you be not joking to him in your approach of trying to, as you were saying, the word in progress? It will not work. So you have to use the same tactic as what the Prophet mentioned. You need to do, you need to be tactful in your approach. And this is what psychologists, psychiatrists, they study this. They study this, and Imam Ghazali is one of the best among them, or to say, who understand how do you groom a person, how do you mold a person, how do you start doing the molding. And there has never been in the record, or rather in the history of Islam, the use of violence. Totally, there's no
Use of violence
in molding a person, or rather
not by force.
Yeah, not by force. No, totally no. So this book, as I was sharing with Faiza, it's a very good book. As I keep on telling you, Akhlaq. If we cannot make, we can't show the difference. So what is the difference between us and our neighbor?
Don't talk about the theological aspect because that is something either you believe or you don't, but at least something concrete, an example.
Exactly.
If your religion is so good, your akhlaq should reflect that.
Yeah, definitely there is something that someone will be attracted to. I'm sure this is one of the reasons why your wife loves you. There must be something there must be something that you offer to her. It's not that forward, LOVE. I don't think so. It doesn't work just like that, but it is maybe the akhlaq, maybe you being kind, and it's each and every one, and that's why in Islam you need to be doing the muhasabah. The muhasabah is where you learn that okay, you can see the difference. I've been mentioning in yesterday's class using Minhaj al-Abidin. You must be able to see the difference. Cannot be that there is no result in whatever you do. Cannot be. Otherwise, then you are saying that How can, how can Allah be wrong? Cannot be. So Allah, you cannot be making a self-proclaimed, like example, you are a mu'min and mu'minah. No, it doesn't tally. So the proof is the Quran. Allah Himself said it is not coming from anyone else. And Allah Himself said that in order for you to understand it, He mentioned very clearly, "Innamal mu'minuna idha dhukira Allah." See, in order for you to know that the person is a mu'min, "Innamal mu'minun idha dhukira Allah wajilat qulubuhum." See, when Allah has been mentioned, you can see the difference. And it moves the heart of that person. This is what it means. So from this hadith, Imam Ibn Hajar also clearly took what is being said in the hadith, and then he further concluded that the woman is also permitted to serve her husband and his male visitors, on condition husband to serve his, and the same with the wife, that can serve the husband and the husband can serve the female visitor. So it is evident that her serving the visitors is allowed only if there is no fear of temptation. This one is very difficult for you to know. Right? How do you know that it's without temptation? How do you know that if someone like Nasir is going to visit Miss Hana when Cikgu is not around, how do you know that whether he's tempted by your wife's look or by man is very difficult. Every one of us aroused in a different erotic area, Cikgu, if you study about that.
I think the fact that there is even a possibility that people might be aroused, that's where we close that avenue.
Yes. That is the purpose of why Sharia is being there. So I keep on mentioning, we need to able to see the reverse. It is not just forbidding, but it's actually securing, it's avoiding, it's preventing. You see, this is how you have to look at the law. The law of Islam is, this is the purpose. As Allah mentioned, "La yukallifukum nafsan illa wus'aha." My religion is not a burden to you. So it boils back again to your understanding. If you understand that this is just a prohibition, then obviously you will find that that means it's very narrow. It's not so wide as the way you understood. But it is broader. Yeah, maybe for today, somebody come and talk to your wife, there is no billing. Then for tomorrow, no billing. But the third day, then suddenly the billing start coming. Maybe the way she responded. There are many factors here. Really, very difficult to conclude.
And shaitan being one of them.
Oh yes. Oh yes. That is why it's taken again from another hadith that the moment you are just the two of you, I mean a male and a female, right? The third party will be Satan. And then there's also an hadith to say that this Satan will not just sit there and keep quiet. It will shoot an arrow to Cikgu Shiki now. Okay, then you look at Cikgu Shiki now, look at her eyes, look at that kind of thing, It move on, it move from, and that's where then you can feel the blood moving in your body. You're beginning to feel the warmness of your body. You already responded. Satan has already forced you to respond towards what you saw. Then you're tempted by what you saw, and that's it. It's just a question of if you have been watching all those things that is illicit, then it will join. Then the blood, the breath will be very fast, Change a person.
On the physical aspect, it will
It's a slow
So
process.
it's best actually male and female not to have like in contact if possible. Because I knew of best of friends, couple, they divorced and they married the other party. So it's real.
Yeah.
So I think frequent macam meeting and all that, so I don't think it's possible.
So as management must have less meeting.
I visited some of these play schools, I can't be commenting. I don't want to mention the name. But it's saddened to know, you see, that's why even it's a Muslim, so-called Muslim childcare, but yet Muslims fail. You know, I mean, these little toddlers, or rather what you call it, child, you see there's a mix of both of them. This is actually
The,
not supposed to.
the training has to be from young.
Yeah, it should be. That's
No,
why.
very much okay. Yeah, we don't, for boys and girls, the bathing pun tak kasi sama-sama. Because our parents are very,
Yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah, that's why I said, that's why I said not for all. I mean, I haven't been to hers yet, but this the other day I happened to brought Mrs. Bia around. Like I said, there's no point of mentioning the play school, but it's very disappointed to see this thing go. And then, of course, they allow the child to rush to the toilet. I mean, they want to self-train, but you need to still be there to ensure that nothing like this happens. This is very sad. I mean, if it is like in our, we can't see this thing in the near future, but it's a slow process.
But it's a big problem. Like right now, the three intermingling, like based on this particular one paragraph or one sub-chapter, male, female already can, I mean, don't talk about male, female, even the same gender also now you have rising trend of, you know, so, but
So let's move on to the next topic about sexual perversion. This is a major sin. So we must be aware that in regulating the sexual drive, Islam has prohibited not only illicit sexual relation and all ways which lead to them, as what we were discussing, but also the sexual deviation known as sodomy. This is also not allowed. So this perverted act is a reversal of the natural order, a corruption of man's sexuality, and a crime against the rights of women. And the same applies equally in the case of lesbianism, as you can see the footnote below. The spread of this depraved practice in a society disrupt its natural life pattern and makes those who practice it slave to their lusts, depriving them of a decent taste, decent moral, decent manner of living. The story of Prophet Lut alayhi salam has narrated in the Quran should be sufficient for us. Lot people were addicted to this shameless depravity, abandoning natural, pure, and lawful relation with women in the pursuit of this unnatural, foul, and illicit practice. That is why their prophet Lut alayhi salam said to them in chapter 165, verse 166, Surah Shura, which means, what of all creatures do you approach male and leave the spouses whom your Lord has created for you? Indeed, you are people transgressing all limits. So the strangest expressions of these people, perversity of nature, lack of guidance, depravity of morals, and aberration of taste, was their attitude towards the guests of Prophet Lut alayhi salam, who were angels of who were angels of punishment in human form, sent by Allah to try these people and to expose their perversity. The Quran mentioned in Surah Hud, chapter 77, verse Surah Hud, 7781, which means, and when our messenger came to Lut alayhi salam, he was grieved on their account and did not know how to protect them. He said, this is a day of distress, and his people who had long since been practicing abomination and came rushing towards him. He said, O my people, here are my daughters. They are purer for you, so fear Allah and do not disgrace me in front of my guests. Is there not a single upright man among you? They said, thou knowest well that we have no right to thy daughters. And certainly thou knowest that we want. Then he said, if only I had strength to resist you, or had some powerful support, said the angel, O Lut, we are messenger of thy Lord, and they shall not reach thee. See, the dialogue is recorded here. So the jurists of Islam have held different opinion concerning the punishment for this abominable practice. Should it be the same as punishment for zina, or should both the active and passive participation be put to death? While such punishment may seem cruel, they have been suggested to maintain the purity of Islamic society, to keep it clean of perverted elements. So they practice whatever is in the whatever is already mentioned by the Quran. They do not added any more to that. I mean, it's just something that is being condemned.
So, sir, in this particular portion, they talk about an act of perversity, sodomy, and they link that back to one where, because of that, it will make that particular person become a negative member of society, because of lack of moral and whatever. So it may affect other actions that they may do. But what if an argument, yeah, this person is a homosexual, for example, but yet the person is a good person. He gives charity, he do this, he does that, he whatever he's a teacher, he's very good teacher, he teaches people. So you have this idea where yes, he or she is this, but yet he seems to be doing good to society also. So this idea that such people don't contribute to society, macam mana Ustaz? I mean,
Islam doesn't accept that.
doesn't accept.
In Minhajul Abidin, yesterday I covered this chapter that explained about even this was brought to the attention of the Prophet, about people doing prayer, fasting, and zakat at the same time doing fornication and all other too. So it was brought to the attention of Sayyidina Abbas radiallahu anhu. He was questioned, will that be any good? Then he says no.
So what makes sense?
Because it defeats the purpose of, because good and bad cannot be a mixture. Based on the Quran, you can't mix the bad and good together. It doesn't take effect.
Good is good, bad is bad.
Yes.
Good and bad is bad lah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Ustaz, but to these people, they will always say that they are bound to be that way.
But the argument here is more of you may have a bad habit, but yet you are also good.
Yeah, that I know.
Some ways to find to justify what they know.
I mean, which is common lah, because the thing also starts if you have somebody who claims, for example, I'm a Muslim, I do all that thing, but in a way, their contribution to society is not as great as someone who also sins. So, from society point of view, this person okay, what? You see how much he contribute, whatever like charity, this and that. But look at this person, he says he's good, but doing so little. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
the society will condemn if the religion reacted, but the religion will react in accordance to what Allah wants.
Example macam
As what you were saying just now. I mean, let the society, if the society were to take this pervert as someone that is noble because of his contribution to the society, and this and that, but the religion will not see it as a contribution that in the form of the best yet.
contribution that is not of the best form yet.
Yes, because he is still doing the non-best thing.
Then for the other argument, Ustaz, and then for the other argument, oh, I'm a Muslim, I'm good. Oh, it can be any other religion also.
If you read this book again from the earlier chapter, it mentioned about good intention. I mean, the concept of Robin Hood is not accepted in Islam. it does not give you a permission to rob, in case if you are poor. It's a situational thing. It does not justify you by robbing it. So it's a clear thing that if you rob, it's a sin.
Whether whatever circumstances it may be, whether you're starving or not, but it is still a sin. Okay.
There's no lesser sin, there's no which is classified
But
as lesser.
yeah, I mean, the beauty is that you can't be mixing the good and bad together.
Like for this paper, can we just say, okay, whatever you do good, that is good, fine. But we cannot deny that what you're doing here is bad. So if it's bad, it's bad. You cannot say because you do good, it cancel out this one. We cannot. So it's okay.
These are in the principle of what is being mentioned in this book.
The
11th principle, if you remember. Good intention does not justify the means of the act that you do, which is transgressing the limit that is set down. It cannot be.
So by that same argument also, normal people with faith who claims that what they are doing, they are on the right path, whatever, that is not enough also. Because why? When you do say that, it means you also have to be a contributor to society, and you just cannot be happy to just say, I just pray 5 times a day, or be a normal teacher is fine. You can't really do that, because by the very definition you have to strive to be better. So we need to argue from these two perspectives. So we cannot say one is better than the other, because they are still not the best yet.
Okay, according to if you understood the Quran, you can see very clearly Allah mentioned it. You can't put the blame onto Allah, because Allah says that halakal insana bi ahsani taqwim. I have created you and innate in you with the every quality that is needed by you. If you use those senses that I have created, it's impossible that you can be doing bad and good at the same time.
Some daripada kecil dia memang lembut.
So I mean, that's where the parents have to play their part. The issue is always that sometimes the parent doesn't want to. Maybe they do not have the knowledge, so they do not know what should they be doing the moment if they saw. But unless again it's like Kunsa is a special. It is coming from Allah.
Yeah, both gender.
Yes. That is so you need to be able to know to monitor the character, the development of the child, whether the child is prone to be more women or men.
Then they have to decide.
Yes.
And once they decide, they will permanently be as that. Okay, I remember reading that somewhere.
Yeah. So, okay. So we move on to the next chapter concerning this again, not a new thing. The pressing needs to relieve himself of sexual tension may drive a young man to masturbation. The majority of scholars consider it haram, except for Imam Malik. So Imam Malik said can. The base is his judgment on the verse in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse 5 to 7, where it is mentioned in the Quran, those who guard their sexual organs except with their spouses, or those whom their right hand possesses, for with regard to them they are without blame. But those who crave something beyond that, they are transgressors. So the base of this arguing that the masturbator is one of those who crave something beyond that. On the other hand, it is reported that Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal regarded semen as an excretion of the body, like other excreta, and permitted it expulsion as blood letting it's permitted. That is the view of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal.
So based on Hanbali school, Imam Hanbal, it is okay for you to masturbate.
And Ibn Hazm held the same view. However, the Hanbalis juries permitted masturbation only under two conditions. First, the fear of committing fornication or adultery. And second, not having the means to marry. So these are the two situations that you're allowed to do these things on your own.
Or is it true that those person after marriage?
No, cannot. If without as mentioned the two reason here, then it's not allowed.
But because
Well, that is unfortunately lah. If they want to be doing, then they have to prepare their own reasoning lah. From the religion, this is what the scholars say. They can be giving excuse for themselves. In most situations, it's due to because as mentioned here, they can't afford to be having a second wife, so they do that. Huh?
I was planning one class that is about for those who are married, those who are not married.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, there are many. Depend on who the scholars who say that. So this one is coming from the different school of thought. This is from the Hanbalis and we are Shafi, so maybe in Shafi the ruling is different from the. So here he said we are inclined to accept the opinion of Imam Ahmad in a situation in which there is sexual excitation and danger of committing the haram. For example, a young man has gone abroad to study or to work, thereby encountering many temptations which he fears he will be unable to resist, may result to this method of relieving sexual tension, provided he does not do it excessively or make it into a habit. Because there is some other scientific discoveries that it will affect your mind and in your eyes and your sight and some other things, according to science. Yet better than this is the perfect advice to the Muslim youth who is unable to marry, namely that he seek help through frequent fasting. That will be the advice. For fasting nurtured willpower, control of desire, and strengthen the fear of Allah, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in a very common hadith, Ya Ma'asuran Shabab, O young men, Man istata'a, those of you who can't support a wife, who can support the wife should marry, for it keeps you from looking at women. Lower your gaze and preserve your chastity. But those who cannot should fast, for it is a means of cooling the sexual passion. Wallahu a'lam. I think unless if you have any question, or otherwise we will stop. The next one is about marriage. Very long.
So you say for Hanbali, we permitted only under two conditions. First, the fear of communication or adultery. Under this sentence, committing communication or adultery is for
Zina.
only those bachelors or
Oh no. Yeah, but that one is for bachelor. For married men is different.
for bachelors.
That's why the hadith is where the Prophet talking about the young men.
For bachelor, not those like single.
It's not for those who are married lah. Because it will make sense of Sami if you are married. Let's say for whatever reason you are excited, you have your wife or you have your spouse to help cool you off.
Yeah. Kalau let's say you're married but you're stationed overseas for long period.
That's where you can apply that.
Just as a prevention.
If it really goes that high lah. Because it could again it voice back again to what you have been doing with your mind and your eyes lah. Doesn't curb your eyes to be looking around and you really look into every corner of a woman and you're asking for trouble.
So I guess it all links one to another. I think you brought a very good point that although it says this, but it does not mean it's okay. Because in the first place,
it wasn't you to do it.
because in the first place, if you cut your eyes, you do this, you that. Even the previous part about you entertain the same sex gaps, you don't look around anyhow. You may not be aroused that easily, and you may not need to masturbate per se lah. So
I mean, you can't be denying to say that you can try any. I mean, as long as your desire are still workable, you don't take the risk. Even it can be a grandmother, If the grandmother really put on sexy slacks and this and that, huh? Yeah. I mean, that it leads into rape too. So it's something that when I was taking the psychology course, it was really something that that we experienced in the course, whereby it's scary to know they go 6 and 7 years old, nephew and niece had sex, and because of grandparents leave behind the pornographic tape.
grandparents.
Can you imagine? You see, these are the things that we didn't really look at when we become parents. We may be careless. It's just that during our time, we are very fortunate. We don't get, these things are not so easily accessible. I think if you can remember, during our time, black and white already is very difficult to go and get to have access to this kind of
Magazine.
Playboy magazine that comes in from Philippines actually, and it is in black and white. We already becoming fit when we saw these kind of things. So in comparison, you can imagine the drastic bombardment, that is taking place in the society. That's why the impact is so great that it's almost impossible that you can stop this intimate relation between themselves.
And I don't know, I mean, related to this, interestingly, there seems to be a statistic where in terms of country, the countries with the highest rate of watching pornography, downloading or whatever, the top 3, or I don't know whether top 2 or whatever lah, but the top few countries that are so-called Muslim Islamic countries. Macam mana tu Ustaz? I mean, some people argue for other countries because morally they are so-called looser, they are more free, they are more free to do whatever they want, so they do not need to turn to pornography. But for Muslim, because cannot, they turn to pornography. I don't know.
That is not relevant.
That is irrelevant for Muslim. That's irrelevant, right?
Yes.
So we cannot say that to justify.
Exactly. I mean, that is their aim of condemning and making us see things. They want to divert our understanding and to follow theirs, to be more secure and better.
Because I mean, in a way, people may also argue, look, if you want to curb the problem of pornography, this is what you do. Don't restrict so much. Let them, that kind of thing.
Okay. There's a very valid point that I debate this with one of the American or European. I can't remember. Okay. Assume that. Have you been to the nude beach?
No.
So I debate and ask him. I said that if you were to see someone in nude, does it arouse you? And then I asked him, are you saying that nothing is happening at that beaches that you went where everyone is nude? Cannot be.
I guess things do have, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he answered me and said, yes, yeah, there are people who make love upon what they saw. But normally they say that the one at this nude beach are 60 and above people. So it doesn't arouse. But I still argue and say that, are you saying even if it is 60, nothing happened?
States. There's a state, there's a state. That now is a new town. Everybody goes new.
Yeah, but still, you can't use that as a reasoning to say that nothing will happen.
it's a one set. So it's like you are substituting one problem for another problem. Yeah, you may say it may reduce the problem of pornography, but yet you are increasing the issue of people not dressing properly, for example, that kind of thing. So it's substituting one problem for another problem. But then for us as Muslim, a sin is a sin. We cannot justify it to say, oh, because of this, because of that. It is something that we need to improve on.
Because there are many factors. I have to ask how we are able to answer that. As I said, I argue with this guy, and also again in Aussie, if you have studied about the culture of Australia, running around naked is again nature. We call that is nature. We were born naked, they said, so what's wrong? I want to be cooking and running around in my own house, stark naked. The answer here is not allowed in the Islam because there are other creatures sharing in the same earth as you are.
That by itself.
And Allah Himself say, I do not want to see you naked.
Quranic
Allah,
verse
yeah,
or hadith?
yes, it's the Quran. Allah Himself says that. So that's why you see, al-haya min al-iman. Shyness is part of it. So if you allow nakedness in your house, then there's no shyness. It will affect many other. If you see, even husband and wife, they go in the adab of having intimate relation should be under the bedspread, under the bedsheet. Sorry, blanket or whatever. It's not supposed to be looking at one another. Private part in the adab, because that is we are talking about. I mean, it requires time. You're not going to just live with your wife in a very short period. When you see everything after that, that's it. No, right? You are hoping that only that do your part. So you see the process. It requires like part by part lah. Maybe for the first 10 years, still whatever
under the blanket, and then turun or whatever like that.
Then until you already become like, that's why the law, the Quran uses the term ajuz. Ajuz means that you become like your grandmother, your grandmother, and then the law become loose. Who wants to see? It doesn't arouse because everything already out of shape.
If you want, you have that liberty to.
Allah, because Allah knew that not many will be crazy of grandmother.
Oh, okay.
I mean, those grandmother who doesn't work out but those grandmother
naturally, the idea is that Ustaz, as you grow older, in a way you become so-called less attractive. So the danger is lesser. So
is that adab or is that compulsory or is it? I mean, you say
grandmother.
No, for those intimate
Oh no, it's an Islamic rule. It's in the ruling in the book of Babu Jima. The book of Babu Jima. There's a mention in the book a proper way of intimacy. You should come. I should take a time. I'm teaching Munakahat there. I'm using the book the Federal Vessel.
I don't know, but there's a kumuskilan about this. Asking but that's what he said. As husband, wife, when we even in the room, we are.
No, if you want to be stark naked, it's allowed. It's not that it's haram. It's not haram. It's the adab. Yeah, because it's a psychological thing. Because sometimes it can be an ustad who are sharing with you, but doesn't mean he knows everything. Because sometimes some of the thing requires that you pose the question, and I need to be doing the research to find out, whether is there any such thing.
Sometimes I'm not so
Absorbed.
I'm not sure whether they answer correctly.
Sometimes it's like that, because sometimes no. I mean, there is no prohibition of you want to be stark naked with your wife in a room. There's no, because it's halal. Halal in terms of having that relationship. Then it becomes category without adab, if you are like, not you're forgetting their remember the angel already left you, but they are not there to watch whatever that you're doing, according to the prophet lah, So, but there are other creatures. There are the jinn, Satan will be around. So because of that, in fact, it's an authentic hadith that the prophet mentioned. It should be done. It should be in the blanket. I mean, I think you remember that the time when we conduct the seminar, then the continuation of what I started there. Now they are enjoying it every Tuesday.
Yeah.
There's a rising number of students, especially those married, like they want to know.
So I think, based on the topic just now my uncle brought up, even putting aside alam ghaib, you never know. People nowadays with teropong don't even be surprised. Like, people can hack into your computer, your camera, and you switch it on, your phone. It's just
many other things.
You got drone or whatever. I'm just saying, people want to do, they can do. So it just makes sense to things that are private, give it private lah.
Exactly. The idea is for us to be enjoying with our wife lah. So if that is the situation, coming back to what he said, then it's allowed in Islam. There are men who cannot have an intimate relation without looking at the wife being stark naked.
Okay.
So in situation like that, then it's allowed. Otherwise, then there should be shyness in between the two. If you both of you, like when you dress up, then you get to see everything. Sooner or later, you're gonna get bored of what you see. This is nature, right? This is us human beings. So the religion is protecting on that. Because the problem with past sex is always taboo in our society. Actually, in Islam, no, we can discuss. This style, okay, to follow.
It's a topic by itself for us to learn.
That's why they have a separate book about this intimate relation. There's a book that is known as Babu Jima.
It's
a guideline given by the Prophet. Yeah, it is a topic by itself. You need to continuously learning as long as we live. Because sometimes some of the problems that we're encountering, we don't have the knowledge. So that's why, as I mentioned in class, the importance of us knowing when you study Fiqh, you must cover all the other divisions. In order to find that, okay, it will carry the weight in you for you to understand, like Fiqh Ibadat you have learned. Then Fiqh Mu'amalat is where this is what we are talking. Then Fiqh Mu'amalat is the interactions of us with non-Muslims, with in business, at work, how do you socialize? This is under Mu'amalat. Then Prohibited Jinayat is about knowing that crime that could be committed, that will be the punishment, and that will help you to maintain your iman. You're beginning to protect everything. You know that it's a sin. It's a severe thing. That if you're going to be doing this, and that. So that is under the subject of Prohibited Jinayat. Once if this whole knowledge is there, you're actually a totally different person. Because you understand. But the problem with the society, we only focus on one subject. We only learn Fiqh Ibadat, that's all. So how to understand about the marriage? About mostly, elderly, like myself and your parents. Right? When we come to this age, you say, always quarrel. Why? Don't have knowledge. Nothing to talk about. How long already they've been married? Example, I'm just giving an example. I'm not referring to your parents. Yeah. Even myself, I quarrel with my wife too. But then you as a leader, you already have the knowledge. Then you need to explain because they don't have the knowledge. Then you need to explain. This is what the religion says. This is what we should do. This is how we can improve our life, our relationship, and this and that. It should be better. Should not be like until there's nothing to talk. Cannot be.
Or in other words, Ustaz, it's like with knowledge, like what you mentioned about all the different areas, branches, we will be able to do things correctly in a way. So there will be unnecessary argument or unnecessary problems. Even if there is, a problem or whatever, we will be able to do it, I guess, in a way with adab. I would.
You
Yeah.
know, to identify the problem, then find a solution. Because there's a solution to problem.
Yeah, because there is always actually that's why in that book of the fragile vessels, there's a mention of that hadith as I mentioned about kulukum ra'in mas'ulun and ra'iyah. Each and every one of us is a shepherd. You know? So we need to understand our role. So I don't know. It should be there's always things for us to do actually.
But Ustaz, it's very true. I mean, I've been like married for many years. Well, of course, I do have problems with my husband along the way. Also, have a lot of challenges. But I think the more knowledge I know about Islam, the more patient I am. And then we come to realize marriage is not just like a sexual thing, but a lot more other things in life, but especially when we but it's very difficult. Like, in the beginning, it's really difficult to understand why things happen. Only after many years, then I realized, okay, this thing happened because I'm going to meet this along the way. So nanti along the way, we are susah lah. Nothing's
But inshallah, once if you have the knowledge, it will help you to cross. That's why I like that book of Minhajul Abidin, because it talks about the valley. For each the valley that you need to go, you need to know what are the obstacles, what are the hurdles. You know. It helps you actually. So these are the things that we never. You see, like example, most of the Islamic book doesn't talk about health. So you need another book to go and study. You see. Only until we become sick, then only we start looking for medicine, and then we start. It will never happen. So you must go back again to the basic. That means Tawheed. How do you relate medicine with theology? Because the one that is curing you is Allah. Medicine is just cause. It is not an object that you can use as a reasoning that it will cure you. But nevertheless, the Quran says, every sickness I will bring down the medicine. So you need to go and take your time to find out more. So, but normally for us is when we are in that situation, and then we start searching for it. By the time we found out, then you will find that it doesn't happen. It doesn't affect. In curing, Tawheed is very, very important. You must not be thinking that the intelligence of the doctor and the substance that you found. No, it comes with Allah. Because it's with Allah's permission. It's with Allah's, consent, in other words. Then only that medicine will work. Sometimes it's a psychological thing. Not necessarily you use medicine. No. It's a psychological thing. That you need to know that Allah is still the curer. That's why we are taught that when you read when you take the medicine for you to be recited, Sulai Shafi, Sulai Kafi, Sulai Wahabi, Sulai Ladi Layatul Masmi, you see, that is theology. You use that with the medicine. Then it's guaranteed that you will be as fit as a figure. Because according to what the Muslim scientists, we were created with our doctor in our body. We have our doctor. Our doctor is the immune system. You know that you can see it's an automation. If you get cut, it cures by itself if the immune system works. If the immune system is condemned, that's it. That's why the kidney is very important. You have to look after the kidney. Because this is where the process. Otherwise, you can't boost up the immune system. Because if you boost up for those because my brother-in-law is running with one kidney, the wife donated her, so they both got one kidney function. So they can be affected by any disease that is around there. If they are in there, they will be the one that will be affected. Very sad. There is nothing that they can do about it. So the important of us to look after our kidney.
So the one that you mentioned just now,
it is in the hadith, the Prophet is the one that told us.
have you given to us or
think so.
yang
Tadi
kali
ask Sulai Syafi, Sulai
One
Kafir,
values take medicine.
Yeah.
Bismillah 5 lah.
kan? 95 kan? Ya.
Dari Syafiq, dari Syafiq, dari Muhafiz.
Like the last one is in the Ratif.
Bismillah.
I think so. In Malay they call it Ratif.
mana? Okay. Ustaz ni saja sikit hadiah Ustaz.
Alamak.
Saya buatkan murid-murid saya ni bookmark lah.